Another great outing by the best team in college basketball who's looking to repeat maybe a potential second back-to-back national championship. South Carolina Gamecocks ladies, my God, they look great. 81-56 final against Maryland, and on the backs of Aaliyah Boston and Zia Cook yet again. There was a scuffle in this game, and it really lit up South Carolina in this one. Maryland didn't really stand a chance at all. This was the first test for South Carolina this season against a ranked opponent, and they did exactly what they needed to do. They won, and they won with, honestly, style. They looked very good in this basketball game, shooting 44%, shooting almost 30% from the three-point line. And again, we really got to see some more of Aaliyah Boston than we did in the past. I don't think we've still seen everything, Steve. We only saw 29 minutes from her with her 16 points. We have yet to still see a full Aaliyah Boston game because they are just blowing these teams out of the water. I don't know when we're going to fully see her play a full game. Maybe we'll see it when they take on Stanford later on, number 1 versus number 2. Maybe that game will be closer. I sure hope so, just for the sake of enjoying a game. But if you're a South Carolina fan, man, you got to love what this team looks like. I think they're better than last year.
Yeah, we talked about that, the last game review that we did. And I know some people are going to say, oh, why you're always talking about South Carolina? They're the best team in the country. Can't you talk? But that's why. Okay. And it's not just that they're the best team in the country. They're just a great basketball team.
All around.
You watch them play and you can't help but get drawn into the game and be excited. So I thought Maryland would maybe make it a little bit of a tougher a contest for them. What little I saw, and again, I only saw highlights, I didn't see a whole lot that made me think that it could have been anybody out there, really. I mean, South Carolina is just on a mission.
Yeah.
I like the fact that they are giving minutes down through the roster.
Yeah, they're staying deep. They're staying real deep.
Yeah, and I think that's good because you never know when you get into conference play and you get into the tournaments, both conference and the NCAA tournament. What if somebody gets into foul trouble or somebody turns an ankle, in the third quarter and you need to bring somebody in? Now you have a footprint. You have something you can go back to and say, hey, I remember that, whatever player that it is stepped up at a big time and really played well against a bigger opponent or a more physical opponent. So I think we could put this person in to replace the injured player or the player that's in foul trouble and not really miss a beat. And that's what it is. They don't miss a beat.
Yeah, I watched the full game. I know you watched the condensed. This is on my side of the 5 games for the weekend. Just like you said, they played deep. They had 12 players in this game. 9 of them were over 10 minutes. I mean, that's absolutely incredible when you see this. Again, I think that changes when they start getting more tougher competition. But when you have the opportunity to do it, like you're seeing, and you get the opportunity to do it against tough competition, Maryland's ranked, and I don't see that changing after just one loss against South Carolina. But when you have that type of competition and you can get those minutes to your 10th, 11th, and 12th players on your squad, that's great. That's only going to make you better. That's only going to make your practices more aggressive. You're getting more. You're right. 100%. I love it. I can't wait until we see a 30-minute game from Aaliyah Boston, until we see a 30-minute game from Zia Cook, because when we see that, and I am really, really thinking we're going to see that against Stanford. This is going to be, we're getting the game of the year in November. It truly could be the game of the year in November. We might be all downhill until we get to March Madness. But regardless, the craziest stat I saw in this game, you can look at the points, you can look at the minutes or whatever you want. But as a team, the South Carolina team, all 12 players that played against this Maryland squad, they out-rebounded Maryland by 23, 55 to 32. Wild, Steve. That is wild. Let alone you look. That's better than the score. I know you won by a decent margin. You won 81-56, but that's a better win in my book. When you look at it, when you get in the deep stats, you're up 23 on the rebound game. Absolutely incredible. This team is playing very aggressive. This team, And I'm not just saying it because we said it last week. I'm not just saying it because it's the easy thing to say because they're the national champs, defending national champs. But this team is better than we saw last season. And, Aaliyah Boston, who knows, probably future Indiana Fever, if you will, after seeing that they're the number 1 draft pick, because I'm guaranteeing you that she's going number 1 overall. Wild. I mean, this is just a absolute team. This team is just fantastic. I'm fanboying over here about how good this South Carolina team is because it's hard not to. I cannot wait to see what they do on Sunday in Stanford, 3:00 on ABC. But first, they got to get through Clemson, who Clemson's played pretty well so far. This might actually be a tougher matchup than Maryland. We've seen Clemson play very well. They're not a ranked team, but that doesn't really mean too much in the preseason polls. But Clemson has played pretty well. We saw them do pretty well against Wofford. They won a pretty decent game against Richmond. Nothing too things to be excited about. South Carolina should take care of business, no problem. But we might see a tougher matchup than we did against Maryland, Steve.
Is this game at Clemson or is it at South Carolina?
It's at Clemson, yeah.
Okay, well, again, the regional energy that comes up in these these non-conference games early in the season. Clemson at home, that's okay. South Carolina, there's not enough superlatives we can come up with at this point to talk about this team.
Correct,
but they're having to go into a hostile environment. The arena is going to be packed. If not sold out, it's going to be filled. There's going to be a mixture because, again, South Carolina, Clemson, it's a relatively easy commute for students and for fans. But again, you're playing an in-state rival. You're playing against people that may be in the off-season. You're playing in some recreational games or some other types of leagues that are going on. So I'm almost as excited about Clemson, South Carolina as I am Stanford, South Carolina.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a really underrated game. Now, granted, you talk about them going into a hostile environment. They just did that against Maryland. So, I mean, don't count South Carolina out completely. And we're definitely not doing that whatsoever.
Oh, no.
South Carolina's going to, take care of Clemson. But what I'm getting at here, and I think you're with me, I think they might put up a stronger battle than Maryland just did. I think they have one extra tape than Maryland did. They can see what they have. Maybe we won't see South Carolina go 12 deep, and we get to maybe see a flaw or two. Right now, we haven't found anything that we can say that is a weakness on South Carolina's team. There's not one thing I can say other than the fact that they're not giving Aaliyah Boston enough minutes. But is that really a weakness? I mean, is that really a weakness? Not really when you get your 10th, 11th, and 12th players out there against a top 25 opponent. I'm looking forward to that matchup Thursday night, 6:00 Eastern on ACC Network. And then, of course, we're going to be previewing and recapping, but definitely previewing before the weekend's up, that Sunday 3:00 game on ABC. Another away game against Stanford. Looking forward to that one.